Hey there, guys. Welcome. Hi, guys. Hi, how are you, everybody? I'm Jack. Looks like we have a nice crowd this evening. I think I know the vast majority of you, so it's good to see you outside of class, so to speak. And wow, we have a nice big crowd this afternoon. I really didn't know, and I've never done this type of webinar before. Occasionally, I've done something like this in the classroom when we had the brick and mortar classroom, but never like, virtually. So this is kind of cool. I'm really excited about tonight. And I can't even I'm so astonished that you guys wanted to actually spend another moment of time after spending so many hours on the webinar. Well, yeah, I'll sign up for a little bit more time. Totally voluntary, and if you don't like it, you can it doesn't count to your class time or anything like that. But hopefully it will be, if you just can get one idea out of tonight's webinar, that would be cool. And I think there's a lot of different people that you can learn from in order to be successful. So you pick a little bit up here and a little bit up here, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're in the position to succeed. So I see some current names that are actually in class. And I see some older folks, well, not older folks, but people that already have taken class. Actually see one or two of my existing agents that are already agents at my office. That's kind of cool. So hi, Eileen is here from Cape Cod. That's pretty cool. Not sure who else is here. Let's see. Ben Masterson is here. Hey there, Ben. Okay, good. Good to see you all. Great. Hey there, Ben. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. Good. Welcome. Glad that you're here tonight. We don't have to take attendance because it's completely voluntary, but I see Amy, Ben, Caroline, Elaine, Sade, Ian, Eileen, John, Jaslyn, Jeffrey, Jennifer, John, Shannon, Shauna, and Sue. I think that's pretty much everybody. Oh, Sue. Hey, Sue. How you doing? Great. Well, thanks for coming. This is just a basic webinar. I have a like a little presentation, but should be like super informal. So don't hesitate to jump right in with a question, comment, or concern at any time. I'm going to go and unmute you all right now so that if you want to just jump right in with anything at all, please don't hesitate to do so. I see there's a Dan joining us right now. I'm only going to mute you if I hear a lot of background noise in on your mic. So other than that, you're good to just unmute yourself. Just hit the little green button to the upper corner and jump right in with the question. Really happy to answer any question that's on your mind. So tonight's webinar is just about basically three things. First, affiliating with an agency. Second, lead generation. And third, marketing. Lead generation and marketing being two separate things. And I don't know how long we're going to be tonight, but really most of that depends upon you and the questions that you ask. So, entirely up to you what type of questions you ask. So I see that Dan's there. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good. Yourself?
Hey, good to see you, or good to be seen, I guess, because I can't see you. But I'm glad that you're here, and I think I've said hello to pretty much everybody. So please jump right in with any comments, questions. As you'd expect, we have like a little PowerPoint slide presentation thing that we'll bring up on the screen for you. Does anybody want to ask anything or say anything before we get started? Anything on anybody's mind at all? Or anything special they'd like me to cover this evening? Okay. Good. All right. Then I'll take that as a well-written agenda. That's exactly what we want to hear from. So let's get right into it. I'm going to slide the screen up for you so you can see it. We're going to talk tonight about getting started as a real estate agent. Let's see if I can figure out how to switch the page. There we go. Oh, I'm just a little rusty on these controls here. Affiliating. Let's start with affiliating. As everyone knows, in order to operate as an agent, you must affiliate with an agency. Now, once you get your license, you don't have to rush out and do that if you don't want to. If you want to take your time affiliating, that's fine. But if you want to conduct yourself as an agent, in other words, solicit business, which I imagine the vast majority of you want to, then you must affiliate before you solicit anyone's business. You cannot act as an agent without being affiliated. So that's rock solid law. You should probably ask some questions of yourself and what's important to you. Although, as someone that owns an agency, I don't think that the choice that you pick for your agency as important as maybe it used to be. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I think it was really important that you pick the right agency in town, because agencies had had much more brand identity back then, and that with the internet has gotten very flat. And there are a lot of agents who have more brand identity than the agencies that they work for. And this coming from somebody who owns their own agency, I think that the importance of brokerage from an agent's success point of view is actually declining. I think it's a huge trend in the business that a lot of people don't talk about. But you should probably ask yourself some questions. I don't think these are the most important questions. I'm going to actually get to that in just a second. But I think you should ask yourself about the culture, the location. Are they going to give you a desk? Do you even need a desk? Do you like the broker? Do your friends work there? Comp plan. These are kind of like common questions that people ask, and they're kind of important, but I don't think they're critical. And I do certainly think of these like 6 questions here. I think people put a disproportionate amount of time thinking about these questions and not enough time thinking about what's really, really important when you're talking about picking an agency. And that is, what are they going to do to help you be successful? Because effectively, you are doing the hiring. You're doing the hiring. I'm a strong believer, you probably heard me say this before, that you should head out and in your area, wherever you want to be a real estate agent, do some interviews before you affiliate. Take the time. Now is the time where you're a newly licensed individual. You're like, new like the fresh driven snow. And a lot of agencies are going to want you to affiliate with them, but you're doing the hiring. Go talk to a lot of people, 4 or 5 people if you can. Maybe you won't go with, obviously you can't join 4 agencies at once, but maybe the person you interview today will be the agency you join in 2 years, or maybe it will be the deal that you broker. You'll broker your first deal with them, and since you've already developed a rapport, it's really good to see what's on the other side of the hedgerow, so to speak, and not get preconditioned with a really narrow point of view, seeing it only from the one agency that you interviewed with. So really strongly suggesting, when you brand new, take that wider look and just see what's out there. Even if you have an agency which you really kind of think you're going to go work at, like your next door neighbor's agency or something like that, really branch it out and just do like an informational interview, so to speak. And pretty much anybody that is interested in hiring agents will talk to you for 15, 20, 25 minutes. And if they're not, then obviously that's the wrong agency to go talk to. Pick them up, pick up the phone and say, hey, I just got my license, or I'm almost done with real estate school, and I'd like to sit down and talk with you to see if it might be a good fit, me and you at your agency. Make that call. a good number of people will call back. If anything from that exercise, you're going to learn a lot about different agencies. And I think that could be very valuable for you in the future. By the way, don't forget to, if you have a question, I think pretty much all of you have been on one of our webinars before, just raise your hand at any time or just unmute yourself and belt it right out. So really happy to hear anything that you folks have to say at any time. So there should be plenty of questions. But remember, you're doing the hiring. I was talking to somebody in the insurance and benefit business the other day, and I said, you know, agents, when they look for a job, they're not really looking for a job. They are actually hiring the broker. Here's the dirty little secret that a lot of people won't tell you, but well, I'll tell you. I don't know who's going to be successful, and nobody else does either. So as a result, since there's very little cost to the agency to hire a new agent in most cases, then we basically hire anybody for the most part. And that's how it works. Consequently, you have to be really, really careful about where you go, because don't just walk out of one interview and said, oh, they offered me the job. They didn't offer you the job. There's no job. It's just an opportunity. So keep that in mind. It's like you're starting your own business. It's like you are starting your own business. So, oh, I see that Bobby's here. She's one of my agents as well. Hey there, Bobby. Thanks for coming. How are you?
Good.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. But in the end, it's not them, you know, that determines your success. What do you think it is? It's you. It's you. You're by far the biggest variable of your success. They can give you all sorts of tools, but in the end, it's really you. But I think, you know, now's the chance. 4 cups of coffee. So really, what are we talking about? A half an hour each. We're talking about 2 hours to meet with 4 people. All right, add in a half an hour for calling people. It's a 2.5 hour investment to learn from various people. Totally and absolutely worth your time. Make those calls. Call, even if you're like, you don't even really want to work there, but you're like, they're one of the biggest agencies in town, or they're one of the most intriguing marketing agencies in town, or they've caught your eye with whatever. Just go do those interviews. You're really going to learn a lot about real estate in your market. Strongly recommending that. Here's a quick reminder. Since it is your own business, whether it's a small business administration or whoever, they always tell you that the number one reasons businesses fail is because they're undercapitalized. They just don't have enough cash. So when it comes to us as businesses, as each one of us is going to be their own business effectively, you really have to build in some patience in order to be successful. I've taught this or spoken about this before. The real key to being successful in real estate, and I know this kind of sounds stupid, but really makes a lot of sense. It's just not giving up. If you simply just don't quit, eventually you'll be successful. You know, if you just stick at it. There's just a lot of people that could be successful, but they gave up too soon because they felt the financial pressure. And so they went back to the other kind of steady gig that they used to have. And they never have the opportunity to make those big dollars because they went with the steady paycheck. Trust me, I know exactly how that is. Many of you might know that before I went into the real estate business, and I've been in the real estate business, it will be 7 years this spring. I used to have this door job. That's right, a door job. I wish I could bring those up for you on the screen, but I actually all day measured doors. I got kind of trapped in that gig. I just picked that. I was in between sales jobs, and I picked that gig up like on a whim. And then I kind of got stuck in it, and it was very dependable from a weekly basis, paid every week. But it was totally below my skill set. But, you know, you get the mortgage, blah, blah, blah. And it took me a long time to kind of wean myself off of it. But I did it slowly because I knew it was so important. I knew I couldn't be 55 years old and still measuring doors. That was like a horrific thought for me. So I went slowly so that I had the patience to understand where I was going. I knew I couldn't quit in the next 3 months. I knew it was going to take me longer than that, given the fact that I have, you know, a mortgage and a wife and 2 kids and 2 dogs. Kind of wish I just had the 1 dog, but other than that, I didn't want to be undercapitalized when I went out my own. So this is something that you really need to pick up the old, you know, pen and notebook here and really put some long-term thought into how much time can I dedicate to this. Some of you will have the luxury of maybe having somebody else in the household who's the main breadwinner, or maybe you have your full-time day job or something like that. So you're going to have to come up with something. But eventually, if you want to make real estate your full-time gig, that is totally doable. But the people who usually make that happen have the patience to understand it's going to take a while, because right off the bat, you're probably not going to make any money. I mean, you might have a deal right in the pipeline, which is awesome. In fact, there's a good number of people who go to real estate school because they know somebody who will hire them as an agent, and they come right out with the deal right away. But a lot of you don't, and you just would be better off thinking of your real estate income as kind of like a icing on the cake. Oh, wow, I sold a house, didn't expect that. And therefore, it just kind of like eases the pain a little bit unexpectedly. And everyone's different. I mean, there are going to be some of you who are like, oh, I can go 7, 8 months. I can go a year without making money. There's going to be some people like that on the webinar. And then there's going to be other people that are like, oh, I couldn't do that. So, and I couldn't have done that. That's why I really slowly, strategically kind of laid in wait. I was like a cat, just, you know, building up my resources. Eventually, I could go out and get my broker's license and start my own agency, and now start 2 real estate schools. So really methodical. And I guess the whole point here is that this can be a career for you if that's what you want. Some of you might just want it for part-time money. But if you still want it for part-time money and you want it long-term, you just got to be patient. You just got to be patient. So any questions about that? Comments, concerns? I feel like I've been droning on there. Just want to make sure that anybody has any questions. I don't see any hands up. We have a great number. Yeah, go right ahead. Someone go ahead.
Question. I don't want to jump too far back, but when you were talking about affiliating, I didn't want to interrupt while you're starting. What are like some questions that we should be asking potential agencies when, like you said, we're interviewing them? So
questions you should ask potential agencies. That's a good question itself. I would imagine the question you want to ask about most particularly is, what are they going to do for you to be successful? So it would be helpful if they had some plan for you and some training aspects for you, whether that's one-on-one or like I do YouTube, and then have some really clear plan on what it's going to take for you to be successful. In a minute, we're going to start talking about leads and marketing. Overall, however, except for some limited agencies, in the end, all the leads are going to come from you, not from the agency. So for me, it's all about the lead generation. Can they help you with that in any way possible? They're probably not going to give you leads. Some agencies say they will, but they probably won't. Right. And if they do give you leads, that's probably going to be a trade-off. Creating leads costs money or time, one or the other. And if they're going to give you leads, that probably means that they're going to charge you for those leads. Maybe not upfront in cash, but in the form of a lower commission split. So really everything is about who is going to bring the leads to the table. That's the question.
Okay, thank you.
And they might do stuff for you that might be helpful for you. They might create a website for you. They might create a database for you. They might have a lot of training. They might have no training. It's really kind of all over the map. So just have them walk them through. Here's a good question. I like this question very, very much. What can you tell me, Mr. or Mrs. Broker, are the 3 things that I would need to do to be successful here at your agency? A nice open-ended question. And by asking that open-ended question, you can then really listen and see if they have any idea what it takes to be successful. Or are they just kind of resting on their laurels as a broker and they just hire as many agents as possible and throw them against the wall and see what happens? Or do they really know how to market? Put them on the spot. Remember, you're hiring them. Good question. Anybody else want to ask a questions at all? Fire away.
Yep. Jack, once you become affiliated with an agency, is there a formal declaration from the agency that you're on their staff so you can keep track of your time? So after, I think you need, 3 years or something before you.
So that's a great question. Yes, there is a formal, it's relatively basic little form that the agency should be sending in to the Board of Registration announcing your affiliation to the board. It's a really simple 1-pager form. And yeah, they should be sending that in. You could ask for a copy of that if you wanted to. Additionally, you'll probably sign some affiliation agreement. Most agencies use the basic affiliation agreement drafted by the realtors, but some have some other specialized. So you'll probably get a copy of that, and that will probably be signed by you and probably the broker as well. So those would be some things that would be dated that you could have. And what you meant, just to kind of fill in everybody else, when you said 3 years, in order to become a broker, you need to work for an agency for 3 years on at least a part-time basis, which they constitute as 25 hours per week. Now, I'm not really sure how any agency can possibly count that up in the modern day. And that regulation, best of my knowledge, was written a long time ago. When people actually would drive into work, take their hat and coat off and sit at a desk. And only then did they sit down were they actually working. Nowadays, of course, work is much different. I always say my cell phone is my office and I'm always working. So I don't know how they ever enforced that rule in the modern 2018 era. But technically, it's 25 hours a week for 3 years before you can take the broker class or exam. Good question. Anybody else with one? Okay. How many? So notwithstanding that you might not want to really think about making any money right away, although some of you will, especially if you're in apartments. By the way, if you're renting apartments in, for instance, downtown Boston, you're going to start making money in the first month or less. But that's a different situation altogether. Having goals is good. You start thinking about, hey, how many houses would it take for me to sell in order for me to quit that bartending job? How many closings do I feel that I need in the pipeline so that I could feel comfortable? And eventually you're going to have enough closings that you're like, hey, wow, I got not only is my quarter set up, but my whole half a year is set up. I can quit the bartending job now. So in order to do that, you really have to think long and hard and be properly capitalized. It's almost better to make a double paycheck from the bartending job and just sandbag that money that you make from the real estate, because I'm going to tell you right now, selling real estate, it's up and down. And you could have 5 closings, boom, 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 in a month, and then nothing for a while. So there is that kind of secular thing. Part of that is actually built by the agent. they get overwhelmed with, not overwhelmed, but they get, tied down with handling transactional arrangements, and then they don't lead generate at the same time. So even when you're busy selling real estate, you always have to be lead generating. You can't be doing open houses and home inspections and all sorts of paperwork and that type of closings, and then just forget about your lead generation. You always got to do your lead generation like every single day. Got to keep that train going. All right, just double checking to see if we have any other questions there. Nope. So I've been talking a lot with my agents in the latter half of last year about this really strong theme that we have for 2018, and that's ask and create, which can really just be broken down into lead generation and marketing. I really believe that the number one determiner of success is the difference between agents that make a list and work it and those agents who don't. There's something called the 80-20 rule. If you've been in sales, you've probably heard about it. It's the fact, more or less rounded off, that 20% of your people create about 80% of your results. And if you want to be in that 20%, this is the number one thing that those people do. They, let's see, here we go. They create a list. Some of you might know that back in the 90s, for the most of the 90s, I worked in politics. And I worked for this politician, nice guy. And he had this phrase, and he would say it all the time: "You are your list." This is, by the way, back when the list was like a yard wide. The paper was a yard wide, and it was big, tall like this. And it was like dot matrix. That was brutal. But you are your list. John would say that all the time. You are your list. And this is the number one factor that really determines between whether agents are successful or not. Time and time again, because it's something that a lot of people don't want to do. And I just want to walk you through the basic, I think it's about 3 steps for lead generation. It's grunt work. That's what it is. And it's a grind. But when you do it every single day, it will get easier. And then when you start to have closings, you'll be like, wow, it's worth it. So let's go through it and see what it is. You got to make your list. First question you got to ask yourself, and a lot of agencies, going to Jaslyn's question, they're going to provide you with what we call a CRM. This is a database that you dump all of your information into. A lot of agencies are going to provide that for you. Some of them will require that you use it, and some of them will be optional. I would just be a little bit concerned. Since you are your list, if you leave that agency, do they have your list? That would be incredibly concerning to me. So if it was me, I would keep it separate from the agency I worked for. I use Google Docs. My wife used Google Docs. I think many of my agents use Google Docs. It's free, it's saved, and it's accessible on every device. But there are a lot of other more fancier CRMs that remind you to contact people. I think you could do pretty much all of that if you use the tools that Google has, just with a calendar reminder. Fairly simple. There are others that are tied into mailing programs, email programs, that type of thing. You can also do all of that using pretty much a free MailChimp account. MailChimp, by the way, if you don't know, is kind of like an email automated software thing. That's how you guys got invited to this webinar. And you can connect your Google list to that. So we use Google. And no matter where you go, Keller Williams or whatever, if you're entering all your contacts information into that database, when you leave to go to Coldwell Banker, did you leave your second most important asset behind? Your number one asset, obviously, being your time. Did you leave your second most important asset back at Keller Williams? My God, they have your list. I would be like astounded. I knew one candidate for public office who kept one copy of the list. That was it. It was maybe a little bit too tight on the list. And if you wanted to work on the list, you had to go to his house and work on the list. That was maybe a little bit too much security. So nonetheless, it's something that you're going to sit down and actually add people to your list. Start with the names. It might, if you have a significant other, sit down at the kitchen counter, pour yourself a glass of wine, and kind of make it fun if you can, and just play the name game. Hey, honey, who do you know? And just write the names down first. Try to mention everybody you know, whether they're at the school bus or at work or in the homeowners association, Little League, wherever you happen to circulate. Have some fun with it and just write down the names in whatever database you have picked. Then go back and add the details, their phone, their email, the address, their social contacts, if you have it. For some of these people, you're not going to have all of that. You might just have their phone. You might just have their address. Write down what you have. And this should just be the hard part, number one. You're going to do this all over. You're always going to be growing your list. You're not going to just do this part once. This is not going to be a one-time sit at the kitchen counter type of thing. You're always going to be growing it as you continually know people. If it was me, I would add that list to a database icon on your phone so that when you meet somebody, you can type the stuff right in. You never forget. I'm wicked forgetful. So I add it right into my phone. When I talk to somebody about the real estate school, I hang up the phone. I have a little database of real estate school leads. I add them right to the database, and I try to call them back if they don't sign up in the next 2 days. You should be doing the exact same thing. That's a lead. Somebody you met at wherever you happen to meet them. You made them at the Lobster Fest or the Beer Fest or the gym or whatever. They're a lead. Always be growing that. Some people are going to unsubscribe from your list. Some people are going to move away, whatever. So you always got to be adding on. You always got to be circulating with other people. And then have some fun with it. I mean, really sit down every 2 months or whatever with whoever, if you have a significant other, and say, honey, it's list night, and make it fun if at all possible. So make your list, put it down there. And then this is the hard part, or the harder part. You got to call them up and ask them a real simple question. Now, the good news about this question is, and I'm going to ask you folks if you already know what it is. The good news is that you're not going to ask them to spend any money with you. So you're not asking them for Girl Scout cookies. You're not asking them to buy insurance or anything like that. But you still have to ask them a simple question. I wonder if there's anyone here tonight who knows what that question is. Raise your hand if you think you know what the question that you should be asking the people on your list are. Go ahead, Jeffrey. What do you think it is?
I should ask them to give you names of people that you can add to your list who you can then contact.
That's like a secondary question, so I like that one. Yeah, let's see if John. You're close. Let's see if John has a question. John Garrett. Let's see, John. Just unmute yourself there. There you go.
Hey, Jack, I would say you want to ask them, well, it could be two things. Are you planning on selling or buying a house? Or would you consider using me as your sales real estate agent?
All right, you're getting closer. How about you, Sue? What do you think? Sue White. Yep. What do you think, Sue? You have your hand up.
Oops.
Yes, Sue? Oh, maybe not. All right. Amy types in, do you know anyone looking to buy or sell? That actually is the answer. Yes. Look at that. We moved ahead. The harder part is actually to ask them, not if they are selling and not necessarily if they have anybody for your list, but who do they know that is buying and selling? What you want to do is leverage the base's base. So you have a list and you got to ask them, not if they're going to buy and sell, because the odds that somebody on your list is going to buy and sell is actually small. I mean, it's totally possible, but it's kind of small. What you want to ask is, who do they know? So you're not just looking at your 1,000 people on your list, but you're looking at the thousands of people on their collective lists. So the real question is, hey, who do they know that is buying or selling in the next 30 to 90 days? It's a really simple question. And then when you ask that question, you don't say anything. That's right. You just let it hang there, just like I did. You just let it hang there like that until they say something. Give them a minute to think about, who do you know who's selling in the next 30 to 90 days? Let it hang there. Give them a moment to think about it. Really, really important. Have your pen and paper ready. Let them think about it. They don't know that question is coming. You do, because you're going to be asking it every day, but let it sink in again, or for a minute. We have a question here. Let me see what this one here. Caroline asks, would it also be appropriate to ask if they know anyone looking to rent? Yes, absolutely. You could say buy, sell, or lease, or rent. Yeah, depending upon what type of referrals that you're looking for. Yeah, totally fine. Yep. Especially if that's, part of your core gig. So yeah, absolutely. Depending upon whatever you think would be, how do I want to say this, for your market. Yeah, if that absolutely throw that in if that's something for your market. I want to kind of give you a 2008 type of version on that, because calling them on the phone is by the far my still favorite way to do that. But let's be real, it's 2018 and catching somebody on the phone is a little bit difficult from time to time. So rather than just have it go to voicemail and then they're just rolling their eyes that somebody left a voicemail, you could send them a direct message like on Facebook or Instagram. That would be really good. I mean, if you want to reach me right this second, you want to actually get me to interrupt this webinar, you're going to send me a Facebook message. Don't send me a Facebook message. But if you want to interrupt, that's the quickest way to get me. Because if you're DMing me from Facebook, I already know you. And I hear that special type of Facebook ping. And I'm going to pay attention to that quicker than any email, any text message, any voicemail. Certainly, voicemail's way down the list. So is email, the volume of email I get. But you send me a direct message, I'm gonna get it. And if you want to take that to just another kind of higher level, and this might not be for everybody, but I'm going to tell you it's super successful. Make them a personalized video. Make them a personalized video. It takes like 3 seconds. Hey, Sally, I'm growing my real estate business. Can you help me with a referral? And of course, you know what the next question is. Who do you know that's buying or selling in the next 30 to 90 days? If you actually can look them, so to speak, in the eye with a video message like that, super successful. It also gives them the impression that you are super social savvy, because they're not going to get too many of these types of messages, and tremendously successful if you do that. You're kind of doing two things that are really hot right now. You're using social to communicate via direct message, and you're doing a quick video, which totally could be like, 15 seconds or something like that, but it will be memorable. Overall, I think the key strategy for lead generation is, once again, to be patient, come up with something that's sustainable, and come up with something that is something that you can do every single day. Some of you are going to have lists of 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 people. Awesome. Some of you are going to have lists of 400 people. Okay, It's a start. The number is not so much important. It depends upon how deep you are with that number. So work it every single day, depending upon your full-time job at the bank or whatever else you're doing. You got to make this part of your everyday gig where you're calling or DMing or whatever. If it's 4 people, great. If it's 44 people, better. But you got to do it every day. Keller Williams has this number. I don't know where they actually get it, that you have to contact everybody on your list. I think it's 33 times a year. I don't know about that, but it definitely takes multiple times. You got to be revisiting with them on a regular basis, and maybe different formats. Maybe sometimes you send them an email, sometimes you call them, sometimes you DM them. You see how we're doing this now. You're using all of those types of communication strategies, and therefore it really starts to build a momentum that they're going to be thinking about you when they think about real estate. The chances that you call them or you send them a video and they know somebody right away is actually kind of slim. What you really want to be doing is planting the seed so that 2 weeks or 2 months from now, they do have an answer to that question. You're the only person they think about. This is like running for class president. It's a popularity crap. It's a top of mind. 2 or 3 months from now, when they think of real estate and they think of somebody who can help their neighbor who wants to sell, they think Patrick Colburn, they think Shannon McGrath, they think Shauna Sylvia, and that's who they call, because you've already planted the seed 3 or 4 or 5, 17 times that you're their gal or guy. So just something to think about. I'm going to stop there and just see if anybody wants to ask anything about lead generation, which really is the number one differential between being successful and not. I know it's not glamorous. It's probably not what you thought I'd say tonight, but it totally makes the difference. Any questions at all about that? Totally not fun. And that's why people don't do it. And that's why people aren't successful, because they just don't want to do it. Got some good questions here. Let me go read what they are. If you already answered, in order to practice real estate, does it have to be within a firm or can it just be under a broker? Yes, good question. I'll be glad to answer that. In order to practice real estate, once you get your real estate license, you must be affiliated with an agency. You might know somebody has their broker license, but having their broker license only means that they're a broker. They can only hire agents if they have an agency license. So for instance, I have my broker's license, but I also own an agency and I have a separate agency license. I can't hire anybody without that agency license. So you got to go to work for some type of entity that has an agency license. Good question. So what is the list you'd give to an agency? Just this list of people, you know? Yeah, if they are asking that that you input your list into their master database, when you decide to go work for Caldwell Banker or the agency across the street in 2.5 years, you're leaving your list behind. It's like Mission Impossible. It's like the knock list. It's out in the open. You don't want that to happen. This should be something you keep with tremendous security. So if it was me, I wouldn't enter it into anybody else's corporate database. You want to keep it, siloed. Siloed is the phrase. Yeah, you want to keep it siloed, because you might say, oh, it's just the list of the 500 people I know, or the 2,000 people I know, or the 78 people I know. That's so wicked valuable. You are your list. Don't give that out to anybody. That's just my personal advice on that one. See, any other questions? Fire away. Happy to answer them. Okay. All right, good. Then we're actually going to be moving into marketing, and yeah, we're doing good for time. Really happy to have anybody ask a question. If you haven't noticed, marketing in 2018, it's all about the attention. for sure. So you can't really sell anybody anything until you first have their attention. And the key part of having their attention starts with having great content and having the ability to distribute that content. How do I want to say this? Let me just slide down here and see if I want to say this the right way. Yeah. You've got to come up with some way to create content that they are interested. Not only you, but them. I heard of a law firm recently that started a blog, not about law, but about golf. You stop and think about that. That sounds really smart. They're talking about something that they like, but also their clients like. So you got to come up with content, and then you've got to come up with distribution. There are just basically three ways to communicate in the current world. You can write, photo, and video. I don't want to discount writing. There's a lot of people out there that are fantastic writers, not me, but writing right now is kind of not so in vogue. Everything video is in vogue, if you haven't noticed. But if you're a really good writer, writing still might be the medium for you. I'm not good at any one of these three things, so I just decided video is for me. That's really not good at anyone. Just stick with one, but video has the biggest impact, immediate impact, I believe. But if you're really not good in front of the camera, then pick one of these other two that you think you have some type of aptitude for and stick with it. And then remember to distribute your content, which we're going to give you some examples of what you can talk about in a minute, natively on the platform. So don't start a blog because that's so 2006. Blog right on Facebook. Blog right on Facebook. Don't have a blog. I don't know if anyone has ever recently gone to my website. My website looks like this. It's basically a business card. You can connect to the real estate school. You can send me an email to buy, sell, rent, and then you can connect with me on social. That's it. I used to have a blog here just like everybody else, but now I'm just totally and 100% native to the platform. I think that's super, super important in this current atmosphere. So nobody is going to your website. If you say, oh, the agency's giving me a website, who cares? Nobody's going to go to your website ever, as we say in Boston. So I have Google Analytics on my website. I don't even look at it because nobody goes there. Here's some possible ideas for you to talk about. I actually want to take the bottom left one first, local news. I imagine you've noticed that the news industry has been under tremendous pressure in the last 10 to 15 years. And a lot of these local little newspapers have faced a tremendous amount of, they've been decimated. And there's very few little local reporters anymore. And I think this is a huge opportunity for real estate agents that want to report on local news, whether that be about sports leagues, because, if you do if you recover like Little League in your town and you just write the blog about Plymouth Little League or West Boylston Little League, everyone's going to know you. And if enough of your peeps also do business with you, that's awesome. Just like the law firm that started the blog about golf. You really got to look for what you and your client are both interested in. I also like the idea of interviewing local business owners. So you go out in your town, whatever it happens to be, you call them up and say, hey, Scott, would you sit down and do a 10 or 15-minute interview where I can interview you about your business? And And then they're going to post it to their Facebook page, which is going to give you exposure to their client base who never saw you before, because it's going to be a fairly favorable interview. You could ask them a tough question here or there, but local people love to be interviewed. You've got to kind of get out of the mindset of stalking and get out of the mindset of you being one of the people that is seen on the internet. Everyone watches Facebook video and everything. And aside from maybe doing, family video or whatever, you've actually got to get out there and be the reporter or be the star. If you want to be the star, then making a video blog, for instance, very popular now, about your story in real estate, that will take a lot of time, and I do it from time to time. Well, that is definitely something that might gain some traction. Again, if you're super patient. But I think that interviewing business owners, telling community stories, human interest type of stories, development news, and local news is a huge thing. Doing your story and doing market report, those are good, but that's kind of like the message that you want them to get after you get their attention. You first got to get their attention. I want to share with you a little experiment we did in my how should I say this, that we did in late November or early December of last year. So here in Plymouth, I created a little Facebook page called 1620 Today, just a Facebook page. There is no website. And I made 4 videos. They were all less than a minute. Every one of them was less than a minute. They were all about, and I'm just going to play this one in the background here. I'm going to mute the volume. And so you don't need the volume. You can just see it. You can see how it's a little story about development at this Home Depot intersection. You can see it playing in the background. And I posted these up to Facebook groups in Plymouth. That's how I got the distribution. Because if I just put it on 1620 Today, nobody would have saw it. But I cross-posted it to what's happening now, Plymouth, or, those other types of videos like that. So really simple video, kind of in a style that's very common now with the words that go underneath. Therefore, you don't have to actually listen to it. And I put a little logo on there. I actually stole this entire idea from another website you may have heard about, Now This News. Even the logo I kind of borrowed from them. In a very short time, completely organically, I got, what are we up to now? About 600 likes on this. And if I continue this for one video a week for a year, I'd have thousands and thousands of likes. And that would be their attention town-wide. Basically, I would have become a media outlet in my town. And there's no reason why I can't go back to that. I think we made our last video in mid-December. But I just did it as a proof of what do they call that? Proof that it would work. So this is totally something that you could do. You don't even need to create those fancy videos. You could do that with a GIF, GIF, where you just patch the videos together. Patch photos together. You don't have to make the fancy video like I did. Somebody has their hand up. I'm not sure who it is, but somebody had their hand up. And somebody wrote in a comment, so I can't find the hand. So proof of concept. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Proof of concept. Totally works. So somebody else had their hand up. I'm not sure who that was. If you want to chime in with a question or comment, please go right ahead.
Jack.
Yes, sir.
I was going to offer it was proof of principle.
Proof of principle. Okay, great. Proof of principle. We'll go proof of principle, proof of concept, proof that it works. I'm just going to stick with that. And again, just as I said already, you got to pick a topic that interests you and interests your target market. That video about what happened at the Home Depot intersection, the gas station's going in and there's some shopping plaza going in, that got 13,000 views. 13,000 views for a 45-second video. But that's pretty impactful, really impactful. So out of that, I got an invitation to be in a podcast, you know, and all I did was make a couple of videos, 4 videos, 6,000 likes, dozens and dozens of shares, dozens and dozens of comments. Very, very powerful. Something to think about. A lot of your buyers, if they're 30 to 60 years old, they're on Facebook. That's where they get their news for their local community. Why don't you be a source? And be micro famous. Like I said, if you're into Little League, or you know you have a family be Little League, write the Little League website for your town. If you're a fishing town, write the fishing report. You could do all sorts of things like this. You don't have to be, you know, Kanye West or Drake. You know, just be micro famous in your little community. That's it. And that combined with picking up the phone or doing that marketing doing that lead generation that we talked about earlier will really make a difference in your success. So these 2 things, grinding out that lead generation and making some creative marketing that you market on the platforms that the people are on. Again, this is something that you can do pretty much for $0. Those 2 things. So lead generation, marketing, and lastly, you heard me say it several times, you've got to be patient. You've got to be patient. Give yourself the financial hang time to make this successful, because you can totally make this a career in real estate if you give yourself enough hang time. All right. Wow. Big crowd actually kind of grew during the course of the webinar. Great to see you all guys here that joined us. Questions, comments, concerns, anything at all? I promised you I wouldn't go much more than an hour, and that was pretty much close to what it was. So, wow, anything at all? What a great crowd. I'm so astounded that you join us, and thank you so much. Anybody want to ask a question, comment, concern, anything? Happy to answer it. You can ask me who's going to win the Super Bowl. You can ask me anything. Who is going to win the Super Bowl? Who's in the Super Bowl this year? Nobody wants to say. All right. Well, I guess if there are no questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, I guess webinar is over then. Really hope that you got something out of this tonight. I hope that you go back and really think about this. And if anybody wants to follow up with a question anytime in the future, I'm always happy to answer it. I see that somebody typed something in, so let me go see what it says. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Elaine. You're welcome. So go out there, get your license, affiliate, do some hard work of doing that lead generation, and then comes up with something like a lot of those ideas to market with some content that is targeting what your audience wants to hear about. They don't want to hear about your listing. Notice how tonight I never talked about the importance of marketing your listing. I didn't say anything about that. Listings come and go. Don't market your listing. I never mentioned market the listing at all. You're not going to market your listing. You have to market to what they're interested in. And they're not interested in your listing. They don't care. What they care about is what they care about. Write about that. Make videos about that. That's where you'll get traction. All right, Amy has a question. We'll unmute Amy. Go ahead, Amy.
Hey, Jack. Super random. Well, not that random, but say you're a listing agent at an appointment and the buyer says, this place would be great, but we really want a 4-bedroom. And as the listing agent, you have a 4-bedroom property listed. Can you suggest that to them, or is that violating your agency with the seller?
Let's just get the players right. You're an agent of the seller, and
Yep.
you're at and you're showing the property.
Yep.
To a buyer.
Yep.
And so yeah, if you're showing that property to a buyer, this is a situation where highly likely you'd be a dual agent if they went forward with an offer. If they don't like that house, you can absolutely show them something else. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So that totally happens. Sometimes you'll show them a listing of yours and they don't like it. And then you can say, well, we can totally see these other things on the list. Let's go do it. I mean, don't sell the unsellable. Yeah, you can totally recommend other things that would suit their needs. Yes, absolutely.
Jack,
Ian,
I
go ahead.
crashed. Is this going to be on your site so we can view it later?
Tonight's webinar? Yes, GoToWebinar is recording it, as you can see, to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So God willing, if everything goes good with GoToWebinar, we will have it up on YouTube or something like that, yes.
Great, thank you.
I have my fingers crossed that it will work out well. Although I did have my DSLR in the background recording it too. So we'll see how that works out.
Very good, thanks.
You're welcome. And thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. Anybody else with a question? Anything at all? Oh, Eileen says something. Okay. Good night, Eileen. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Well, it's been really good to be with you. Thanks very much, guys. Have a great night. This is like one of the shortest webinars that I'm just getting started. I'm used to the 5-hour webinar. We're all done. So thanks, guys. If you're going to still be in class, we'll be back in class tomorrow at 5:30. Otherwise, have a great night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.